Hello, and you've been pulled into the black dimension. I am Kev, and with me is Roger, and we are here at this very moment to bring you our spoiler discussion and review on the Disney Plus series Loki. This Disney Plus series has been said to have the most implications on the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, uh, moving forward. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but let me warn you guys that this is going to be a very spoiler heavy discussion. So, with that being said, let's begin. So, what's going on, Roger?
What's going on, Kev, man? Man, oh man, oh man. I think this is gonna be a pretty good discussion. It's a lot of, Loki was definitely an interesting series. Definitely was.
Yes, yes. Yeah, let me share. Loki, the Loki series actually started based on a continuation of an event that happened in Endgame. Now, Endgame really started to um, mess with the possibility, the time travel and other possibilities, so to speak. So what happened when the Avengers were in Endgame and they were going through different places in time to try to retrieve the Infinity Stone so they can, fix the Thanos snap. They went back to the events of the first Avengers movie, and that in that plan kind of went wrong. What happened through kind of an unfortunate mishap. They lost Tesseract and Loki. When Loki did that, he teleported away from the custody of the Avengers and Thor. As you know, in the regular timeline, uh, Loki was supposed to be back in prison in Asgard, but of course he deviated from that, and according to the way that the time stream is supposed to go, as you will learn in the in in the Marvel continuity, uh, Loki was not supposed to do that. So as soon as he did it, some what looked like some officers in SWAT uniform showed up out of nowhere. Uh, and this is when you were introduced to the enforcers of the time variance authority. In particular, the character off to the left on the screen, Hunter B-15. Um, and it gets crazy from there. Loki is taken into custody, and there, he's taken to the time variance authority, which he was going to be tried, and he was going to be what they call pruned, the little glow stick that's in the bottom right hand corner, that Agent Mobius, who is played by Owen Wilson, which I haven't seen um, doing in anything in a while for some reason, but it was nice to see him return to the screen. Um, so what are your thoughts initially coming into this series when you started to watch it?
Honestly, first one of my first thought, I like the fact that Owen Wilson was a part of it. Okay, it's real talk. I like him and a certain group of guys that he kind of roll with when it comes to movies and things. So I like Owen Wilson, so I was glad to see him be a part of it. I thought the story was extremely interesting, um, and it was great the way they did it and the way they took it from, because when you left Endgame, everybody still wondered what happened to Loki. So it was on everybody's mind. People wanted to know, and that's before we even knew a series was going to even happen. But everybody wanted to know what the heck happened to Loki. What does that mean? Are there alternate universes and things like that? So what does all this mean? So the fact when you found out there was going to be a Loki show, and then seeing how it kind of started, because I thought it started off very brilliant, and you had no real idea the direction the show was about to go in. So I was very, very much impressed right from the beginning. Well, once I found that it was going to be a show, there was some anticipation there because I definitely wanted to know what happened to Loki. The first episode though, I don't think they gave away too much in the first episode, and then to go from the first episode and kind of waiting on the second episode to come out, um, there was a lot of excitement on my part as far as what are they really about to do with this. So I was impressed all the way around.
Yeah, what I kind of liked about it when they introduced the concept of the variants. Um, then came the concept of the actual multiverse, which is going to be very pivotal going forward in the MCU because during the MCU's past, due to contractual obligations and such, you did not see certain characters in certain storylines. What Loki has done since it introduced the multiversal concept is to make all of that possible now. And it's a really slick and entertaining way to get around what happens in real life. So, yeah, implications, I would say. The kind of the bombshell at the end of the first episode, the variant that they were trying to locate, the rogue variant, was actually another variation of Loki. And what you would discover is that variation of Loki is a female. So this is actress Sophie DiMartino, which she is a version of Loki, but her name in particular for this was Sylvie. Um, Sylvie was a very, very interesting character, to say the least, and something kind of messed up. I mean, at least for me, happened in this show. I mean, yeah, which we'll get to eventually. But Loki was after Loki was basically tried, he was going to be what they called pruned. If they touch you with this kind of glow stick with a spear at the end, but if they
Glow
touch you with the
stick
glow
of
part,
death.
yeah, what it did was it erased your physical being and transported you to what they call the void, and there was this creature waiting on you, uh, like a creature that could literally consume time and space. Just and as you would learn, just so things wouldn't get too far out of control. Um, and that creature was called Eliath. And Eliath was really the key to meeting who was behind all of this because they uh, they were misleading you the whole time in believing that the actual authority of the time variance authority was the timekeepers. Uh, yeah, but when they got in the room to see the timekeepers, they fought everybody off and they discovered that the timekeepers it was kind of like a Wizard of Oz thing. Like they were fake. Which
Really?
it was like just only widening the mystery of who was actually behind it. Um, so you got to see them like how they would move about is without being caught by the time variance authority. It was they had to go to like it was called like they had to go somewhere where everyone was going to die so it wouldn't affect the timeline anyway, and that's how Sylvie was able to move about and cause the trouble because her mission in itself was to bring down the time variance authority and everything around it. So um
Yeah, and they stood for.
yeah, she
What?
wasn't
Well,
playing.
well, one of the great things about this show now, the misdirection was done so beautifully in this show. Because if you didn't pay attention, you just be guessing on what the heck is really going on. Because it was all interesting, but you had to guess on what the heck was going on. Now, I will say, uh, Loki is a better character as a man, but he was definitely an interesting character. And now that you even bring this one shot up here, this was actually like super cool to see all these different Lokis right there together at the same spot. But to get that sense that whatever form Loki comes in, he know how to make something happen. Loki's a he's a survivor, as they say.
Oh yeah, that was the key. Like when you went to when he was sent to the void, by a sneaky pruning by Ravonna Renslayer. So let me see. Let me show y'all Ravonna Renslayer. I kind of dug Renslayer a little bit. But where I have the mouse arrow, that's her. That's Ravonna Renslayer. She was the one that actually ended up pruning Loki, sending him to the void, and that's where you met the other variations of Loki and the variants rather of Loki, and the whole scene where they see like he was looked like he was, and I thought it was like a bar, and he had all of those guys. He was surrounded by all of those guys pointing weapons at him. What you would discover if you watch the show uh, is that all of those guys were variations of Loki. it's like I was like,
Yeah,
wow. It's like those
Loki
were
hard to
all different.
kill.
Yeah, they were variants. They were variants of Loki's, which means that what I would find interesting is how would the variants of the others that are in the MCU look, and what I believe you're probably going to see a lot of that in the upcoming Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Which is going to basically have Doctor Strange clean up the mess that this show made, and upcoming the villain for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is Shuma Gorath, who is a multiversal being, and he's pretty serious, but he wasn't the main bad guy for the main antagonist, the guy behind it all. Yeah. Damn, I wish I'd have had a picture. I'm gonna pull up a picture of him, but there were rumors before the show came out that Jonathan Majors was cast as Kang the Conqueror. Kang the Conqueror is a very complex, I would say, broken character, and he, like Loki, also has variants all over the place. In fact, King the Conqueror is the kind of being that will be born in other timelines, and he'll grow up to be that person in that timeline until he eventually conquers that timeline. He is a being of time and space, and he is badass. In fact, he's so badass he probably could he if not surpass Thanos level, and that's just how it is. So, yeah. So Jonathan Majors was discovered as the guy that was behind the Time Variance Authority, um, and he was the character he was credited as was He Who Remains. Um, and they just and what I'm thinking about the whole He Who Remains thing is that they probably just didn't want to give it away that he was, right offhand, Kang the Conqueror. And I'm just saying it's going to get very dark, you know, because what he okay, let me pull up the screen share. Um, because when they finally what happened was when they were in the void. I mean, you saw that, of course, when they were inside of the void. That she said that she was going to enchant the beast alive, and that was going to be the key to getting them to this guy on the screen. Uh, I thought this guy did an outstanding job portraying the character, because usually when you see characters like this and they appear in the comic book, they're kind of robotic or very serious. He added so much personality to it,
In a
but
short period of time too.
yeah, but he's super intelligent. This guy in reality is well, the character's real last name is Richards. The Richards is a last name that belongs to another big time famous character in the Marvel Comics continuity, Reed Richards, who is Mr. Fantastic. Yes, this character is actually a descendant of Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, which makes me wonder how they are going to cast Mr. Fantastic when the time of the Fantastic Four comes. Are they going to cast him as the traditional Caucasian, or are they going to do what they've been doing very often and race swap? Because Jonathan Major's character right here, he who remains, is an actual race swap. So that remains to be seen.
But
So
I think that they probably gonna play around with that a little bit. You know, Marvel wants to have an inclusion, to our understanding. So, um, and the thing is, you know, because there's rumors about what's gonna happen with the Fantastic Four when they do show up. The question gonna be is what timeline they gonna show up in now. You know,
yeah.
how old are they gonna be, and what timeline do they show up in, and will it be from the '60s? Uh, how is it going to affect today's world? It's so many questions that you have just because of what what Loki was able to open up,
Yeah.
and you know, you know, and I know you as a comic book reader, you're trying to kind of anticipate where they're going to go with some of this stuff. But as a person who did not read the comics like that growing up, I literally had no idea where they were going because every time you think you figure something out, they pull the wood out from under you. You know, so I thought they put the series together very well. You know, and they gave away enough without giving too much away on every single episode.
Yeah. They did. This was I like this series. I think out of all of the Disney Plus series thus far, I think that I would probably put Falcon and the Winter Soldier as my favorite. But Loki was pretty good. One messed up part about it is, like, and I say it's messed up, that Loki actually ended up falling for Sylvie. The messed up part about it is this is a variation of Loki. This dude is so messed up, he fell in love with himself.
Now the question you got to ask yourself is that him being arrogant, or is that just a positive representation of he that he gets when he sees himself?
Yeah, like Loki's pretty twisted. I mean, they might have like kind of reduced him to sort of a anti-hero good guy, but seriously, Loki is a twisted individual, and this could be like the worst case of narcissism
Ever.
ever, ever. Fact, like real life or fiction, like seriously. And they ended up having a kissing scene, but what she did was she sent him on his way. And what happened was they ended up getting into a fight, and he who remains, um, this guy right here, basically warned, "Look, if you kill me, all of my variants are going to be running around here, and they are much worse than I am." And Loki and Sylvie ended up getting into a little sword play, as you can see right here. And Sylvie, yeah, she's pretty tough. Like she was pretty formidable actually throughout. In fact, all of the women were pretty formidable throughout this thing. Disney is like in pretty much any form of media is doing this whole tough girl thing. But I mean, it's whatever. Um, Loki like ended up just basically like telling her that, look, I know we came all this way to finish him off, but I actually believe him. What if something worse replaces this? What if he's right? Sylvie didn't care because women. So they fought, and then she ended up kissing him to kind of manipulate him into sending him back to the TVA. And she kills this guy. And one important thing that he did tell her is, okay, either you can let me go, y'all can take over the TVA, clean this up, and everything will be okay, or you can kill me and you'll be cleaning up an even bigger mess, and I'm gonna end up back in this chair anyway. That's a bad mofo
I'm saying.
to like
I'm
you just
saying.
kill him and he said, I'm just gonna end up back here anyway. Now, when you see that it was like a continuous flowing time strand on the outside of this place. When Sylvie kills this guy, the time strand looked like the inside of a bag of sea moss. It was just strands everywhere. All of that, for those who watch this show, were multiverse possibilities. The MCU is now the MCM. They're now the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. And hopefully they don't screw it up. Because, like, if they do it anything like they did it in the comic books, then there's some pretty dark universes. But this is Disney. I don't think they're going to get deep like that. But Schumer Gorath is supposed to be the result because he's from one of the universes called the Cancerverse. Now, let me see. They said what happened was, like, if you watch the final episode of WandaVision and you watch the final episode of Loki, the timestamp where where Attica Harkness was like, "Oh, don't do that. You don't know what you're gonna do. You don't know if you've done," was the exact same time. He Who Remains was like, "Okay, I don't know what happens after this." So yeah, it's very, 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 very good, very, very, very good story writing from the people in Marvel.
You know
Hopefully,
what? There's.
go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead. I'm sorry. No, no. I'm
No, I'm
sorry. Go
just
ahead. Finish that thought.
no, I'm just saying. Hopefully, they don't screw it up because sometimes I will find that with really juggernaut great products, there's always going to be some slip up, and then it's just going to throw everything out of whack. Now, if they keep going the path where they look like they're going, I think that the MCU or the MCM is going to be okay. This series has me anticipating Spider-Man, No Way Home, and actually Venom 2 as well, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Still not real sold on the Eternals, but uh, we shall see. Oh, Shang-Chi! Oh, Shang-Chi is coming out next month, so yeah, yeah, can't wait to see that. Can't wait to see what the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse does with whatever happened. But at the end, when Loki was sent back to to the TVA by Sylvie's trickery, he went and found Mobius and Hunter B-15 and just was very hysterical. Oh my God, this guy is coming. All his variants is coming. We got to get ready. We got to be prepared. And the sad part about it was, let me see if I can pull this picture up. The sad part about it is Loki and Mobius actually ended up becoming friends throughout the entire thing. And when he went back and tried to explain to Mobius and Hunter B-15 what was going on and what was about to happen, they had no clue who he was. None whatsoever. And Loki turns around and sees this big ass statue of the guy they just got through talking to in a very familiar uniform, or very familiar outfit if you are familiar with the comic books. So, Kang the Conqueror is coming.
Well, you know what, the um the way they kind of left things, because I mean, you can try to anticipate some of the stuff because of where the comic direction, but they do leave enough stuff loose enough where you don't really know if they're going in that same direction of the comics. And the question, one question I have is that, you know, th- their goal was not to, well, at least Loki's goal was not to create a situation that would be different but worse. But technically, you now would have a Loki in charge, so it would be different. And would it even be worse? Because she was the worst of them, at least according to the um to the other variants that worked for the TVA. She
Yeah,
was
and by the
basically
way,
her.
one key story element is that everybody who works in the time variance authority, they are variants themselves. They were plucked away from their timelines and their regular original lives. Memories were erased, and they became employees and enforcers for the TVA, which makes it more evil than ever. But according to He Who Remains, it was a necessary evil in order to keep everything in balance, or else it'd have been an all-out multiversal war, which looks like is coming, unless Doctor Strange pulls that Doctor Strange stuff, that he was so
Hmm.
famous for.
Well, I mean, it definitely is going to. I mean, it opens up so many questions for what's going to happen in the future. The setup and where this could go. And the fact that not just even hearing you verbalize the fact that you now have the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse instead of universe, man, this opens so many doors at this point. And I'm really curious on what direction they're gonna choose to go in first, because they could redo a lot of the material, because you can have different variants handling different things at different times. So I am really curious to see where they're gonna go with this.
Yeah, and the here's what everyone should know before we close out. Loki has been renewed for a season two. Don't think that WandaVision or Falcon and the Winter Soldier has been renewed for a season two. Probably because it's necessary to move the story along. You know, uh, not because Loki was a bigger hit than uh, WandaVision or Falcon and the Winter Soldier. In fact, I don't really think that's the case at all. I mean, all the MCU or the MCM properties do well, but if I could probably pick one that did the best, I'd probably have to say Falcon and the Winter Soldier. All three of these series were very, very good, and it tickled your Marvel funny bone until at least Black Widow, and that depends on how you feel about Black Widow, which wasn't a bad film. But we should be discussing that in the nearest future. So Loki, yeah, pretty good. If you have a Disney Plus subscription, check it out. Because there's so much we still didn't say in our own little review and discussion. Uh, so,
Absolutely.
so what about you? Any last thoughts?
You know what? I'm gonna say shout out to Disney Plus. They actually making the subscription worth it with the material that they have going on. Because there's other stuff on there, and but what they're putting out with this Marvel Cinematic Universe. So shout out to Marvel Studios doing a fantastic job. And I admit that I have been an MCU fan since day one. So that first Iron Man definitely pulled me in, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I really am. You know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I,
yeah,
you know,
definitely. The
I'm,
first Iron
I'm
Man blew me away.
yeah, and I'm actually this actually makes me anticipate some of the other shows that they'll do in the future, because they get more in depth with a certain character that you don't have time to put in to a movie. So you know, salute to Marvel. They're doing a great job, at least for
Yeah.
now.
Oh yeah, and yeah. Just one more thing. I thought Gator Loki was funny AF. I mean,
And who would have
seriously.
saw that coming? Who would have saw that coming?
Yeah, he was funny AF, and I kind of like the classic Loki because, like on the screen, classic Loki really was an homage to how the comic book Loki originally looked, and they made him into a pretty powerful character. The guy with the hammer, that's also a variation of Loki. So that's doesn't really, I don't think, count as a race swap. But and Kid Loki, although he was the one that accidentally killed his brother Thor. I mean, so that I know it was mentioned that he said he killed his brother Thor, but it was like I think the story it was purely by accident. Um,
He
yeah,
was the head
but
Loki in charge.
yeah,
Which was
yeah, but yeah, he was kind of bland, so to speak. Like, just yeah, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I mean, and the whole like they actually what they did was they took some variants and then paid them homage in this series, like they did a President Loki, which people had a little was a little disappointed that that Loki did do more, but of course that he wasn't the central Loki of the story, so that's kind of one of those things. But this show was very entertaining. It felt like the MCU. It felt different. It was definitely a very brilliant way to reintegrate Loki back into the MCU events. Um, so I'm interested to see where this goes. Looking forward to it. So, any last words?
no, man, it was a great watch. If you haven't seen it, stop playing yourself and get and what do you call it when you watch it all together? You gotta binge this one. This is definitely a binge worthy series right here. Binge worthy series for real.
Yes, and try like any of these Marvel Disney Plus series. Maybe except for the What If that's coming up. Try to think of them as extended movies, but it broken down into episodes. That because that's basically what they are, and the quality of the of special effects are definitely on par with what you see in the theater, which is beautiful. And I'm finally glad that level of that level of shooting television series is finally here. It doesn't look like cheap sci-fi channel CGI. I mean this, but it is
Hmm.
Disney, and Disney is a juggernaut. So yeah, I would definitely say, hey, thumbs up is not my rating, but I definitely would give it thumbs up. Um, like I said, wouldn't call it the best out of the three, but I will say that yes, this definitely felt uh, the with felt like the usual MCU epicness, and like they introduced a really threatening bad guy. So okay,
And
um, that's
I think
good.
99% of my parents would agree that this was a great show.
All right, so this is pretty much it for now, and we were happy to be able to bring you our review and spoiler discussion on the Disney Plus series Loki. On behalf of Roger, this is Kev. Long live the habitual line steppers. You have been pulled into the black dimension. Good luck finding your way out. Till next time.